Hi everybody, it's Jim Ostrowski with the first episode of the Liberty Moving podcast. I've been playing around with this concept for a long time. I'm still playing around with it. It's going to take a while to get all the bugs out, to get the production values right, but I find, if you have an idea laying around that you haven't really gotten to yet, sometimes you just got to go to it and not, the perfect is the enemy of the good, not wait till it's perfect, and just dive in. So I'm diving in. I've been doing some podcasts off of Facebook Live when I feel like it. No particular agenda, no script, and I don't have much of a script today, but I've been also doing some Twitter Periscope, but at this point it seems like YouTube is the proper landing place for me. That could change, but seems like a lot of people are doing fairly well on YouTube, and we'll start it out on YouTube, and if it works out, we'll stay there. If it doesn't work out, we'll move someplace else. But I've been wanting to do this for years. I'm going to try it out and see if it works. I'm outside today, so I can't really control sound. If one of the neighbors wants to, have a pool party, yeah, I don't live in, don't really live in the suburbs. I live kind of on the edge of the city, and I have a, nice little yard, but there could be some noise, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So I don't have much of an agenda, but I just wanted to basically introduce myself to people, for people who don't know me, and talk about what the show is going to be about for as long as it lasts. My niche in the marketplace, do we need another podcast? I mean, there's a lot of podcasts. I think we do, obviously. Frankly, I'd like to see more podcasts. Not that I don't enjoy some of the ones that I watch, but I think there's always room for more. And, what I bring to the table, which I think is important, I hope you think it's important too. So, just the name of the show is the Liberty Moving Podcast. I had a little bit of discussion on Twitter about what the name of the show should be. Now, I'm wearing a Live Free or Die t-shirt from New Hampshire, and that kind of fits into the concept of the show. Because Liberty Moving, we'll go into all this, and believe me, if you watch the show all the time, you'll know more about me than you probably want to know. And, maybe you'll listen a few times and get bored. Maybe you'll stay and get addicted. Who knows? We'll see what happens. I have both reactions with podcasters. Sometimes I'm very riveted with a podcaster for a while, and then I feel like I've kind of absorbed what the person has to say, and I move on. On the other hand, there's podcasters I've been watching for years. Tom Woods would be the perfect example, and I still listen to him regularly, several times a week. It's really only subject to my schedule. So, been a libertarian a long time. I am a libertarian. I know that libertarianism is not doing particularly well. The critics of libertarianism are all over the place. It's been said that the libertarian era is over, the movement is over. Well, I guess one of the purposes of the podcast is to try to push back against that. I still think that libertarianism has more answers than any of the other movements. We don't have all the answers of life, and we don't even have all the answers of politics. And by that I mean that even if you followed libertarian ideas to the hilt, and they worked pretty much as well as we could expect, We're not going to solve all your problems. Sorry. So if you're looking for somebody to solve all your problems, go somewhere else. The funny thing is, I said many years ago, libertarians are accused of being utopians, and at the same time, we're accused of not being utopian enough. I'm in the branch of, you're going to say that I don't have enough utopianism because I'm really not promising all that much. I'm not going to solve, and we're not going to solve all your problems. We're not even going to solve most of your problems. We're just going to solve a lot of your political problems that have been caused by other ideologies. So, real quick bio. I'm a boomer. I'm like the quintessential boomer, and I know that being a boomer is, again, out of style. I like to push back against that, not because I particularly care if people mock out boomers. If it's funny, I'm laughing. But I don't like scapegoatism. And people who say, oh, the boomers ruined everything. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. The die was cast. The die was cast in America, and I've got my various books. Progressivism, a primer. That's my biggest book. The die was cast in America like 1914, 1915, 1916, that era. So I happen to know my grandparents were born around 1900. So when the ideas that now dominate the United States were solidified into, ruling practice, my grandparents were teenagers. So I'm sorry, you can't blame the boomers, that's me and my people. You can't blame my parents, the greatest generation. My mother was born in the Depression, and her first vote was in 1948. So that was post FDR. So you can't blame my parents even. You can't even blame my grandparents. So all the boomer scapegoatism is just a bunch of bullshit. Can I swear on this podcast? I guess I could do anything I want until YouTube says we don't want you here anymore. So bio, boomer, son of a judge, jock in school, in high school anyway. Oops. Philosophy major in college, law school, libertarian, became a libertarian like 1979. I had been a liberal Democrat. I like to say that I was a volunteer for Ramsey Clark to, persuade people that, yes, I guess I really was a liberal Democrat at one point. If you don't know who Ramsey Clark is, Google him. He's really a major progressive figure of that era. So, been involved in every conceivable type of politics, from Democrat to Libertarian to Republican to Tea Party. I've been a candidate, I've been a consultant, I've been a campaign manager, I've been a volunteer, I've been an election lawyer. I was an election lawyer for Ron Paul. Been all that, done all that. Been a writer since before I was a lawyer. I've written 7 books. I've written op-ed pieces, several bar association reports, several think tank studies. The most well-known would be the one I wrote for Cato Institute in 1989 about drug legalization, which played a role in the movement of that time, which kind of petered out, but then got revived. Kind of a libertarian am I. I'm, say, Rothbardian. I don't believe libertarianism is either left or right. I think we're different, we're better, we're above that. I would say that at this point you'll find me criticizing the left more than the right. Why? Because that's the adversary of the day. The left is basically in the ascendancy, so to me that's the focus right now. It has to be on attacking restraining, attacking, stopping, explaining, defining, opposing the left. And I've thought a lot about the left. I'm working on a book on leftism. I could kick myself for not having it out by now, because it would have been so perfect in explaining everything that's going on right now. Let me just break in and say that I don't like doing taped broadcasts, but YouTube is making me tape it until I get 1,000 subscribers. So when I post this on Facebook Live and Twitter and so on, please subscribe. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm gonna try to do this live. I would much rather do it live. If it doesn't turn out well, if I don't know how the comments work and all that stuff, I'm gonna have to figure it all out. If it works, I'll continue it. If it doesn't work, but please subscribe to the show. It's you should be able to find the link wherever you're watching it, and just hit subscribe. And then you probably want to do a notification, so if I do a live show, if I get to 1,000, do a live show, you'll get notified right away. The other thing is, when you hit 1,000, when you hit 1,000 subscribers, you can start monetizing, which I don't have a problem with. I have to say my website, my small but slowly growing organization, libertymovement.org. We've rolled out a bunch of projects. I'll try to discuss them in this show, or if I don't get them in the next show. By the way, I'm gonna try to go up to a half an hour. I think more than that, and I think you're gonna want to move on with the rest of your life. I may go shorter than that. I may do some, emergency broadcasts that are really short. So, libertymovement.org is my website, and if you go to the website, it should say on there somewhere, we do not accept donations. I feel very strongly about this, that whatever I do, and it's been true for some time, I'm a working class public interest lawyer. I don't make a great deal of money as a lawyer. I've had a lot of success as a lawyer. I've won a number of different kinds of cases against a lot of overwhelming odds, but I'm not going to say that I've gotten rich. However, I really do try to try to subsidize what I'm doing. I don't go out there and, generally speaking, raise money for political purposes. There's exceptions to that. People are going to say, well, that's not true. If you think it's not true, then you don't really know what I'm saying, and as shows go on, I'll explain exactly what I'm saying. I don't want to fund libertymovement.org by asking for donations, either from small contributors or rich people. I'm done. I've dealt with many, many different kinds of rich people, and many of them are fine people. I'm certainly not going to trash them. But I have sat down with billionaires, I have sat down with centimillionaires, and I have sat down with people who are, maybe worth 50 to 100, I guess you'd call them centimillionaire if you're worth 100, 50, 75 million. I've sat down with some very wealthy people, and, it was the right thing to do at the time. It didn't quite pan out. And, my problem with some of the business people who fund politics is they think, well, gee, I've made a lot more money than Jim Ostrowski has in business, therefore I'm smarter than him in politics. Well, that's really bad logic. Okay, so the fact that I haven't made a lot of money in politics, I think is just an absolute credit to me for not being a whore, not being a sellout, and not being a creep, because I'd like to think that I have the skill to have made a lot more if I had no ethics and I wasn't, sticking to libertarian principles as much as I possibly can, given human frailty. I tried very hard. So, but they want to tell you what to do in your realm, even though they didn't make their money in politics. They made their money in business. They're great at business. And they're better than me. They're better than me at business. They're certainly better than me at the business they made their money in. And I don't tell them what to do in their business, but then when you try to tell them what to do in politics, which is my bailiwick, they won't listen to you. And so inevitably, you go to the rich guy or gal. It's always been a guy in my experience, but inevitably they're going to try to get you off of your game and off of your project, not out of maliciousness, because they want to do their thing. So I don't do that anymore. So one of the benefits, here's some of the benefits you get knowing with me that there's no man behind the curtain. Well, there's no man behind the curtain. I'm not a shill for anybody else. There's no hidden agenda. I've been an open secret since 1980. I was an elector for Ed Clark. I mean, you could look all this stuff up. So there's transparency and there's accountability, because basically my view is I'm promoting free market economics. Well, I should be subsidizing what I do by selling stuff. So that's what I'm doing. I guess I'm selling this show. If it's entertaining enough, people will watch it, and people will sell ads, and I'll make the money. And that's not asking for money. That's earning the money by providing entertainment, I guess, in the broad sense. My plan is to basically sell books to do what I want to do, and I'll explain either in this show or in very early on in this process exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. I'll let you know pretty much what I'm trying to accomplish, except sometimes I'm going to keep things under wraps because, for obvious reasons of getting a project unveiled properly without other people like stealing the idea or whatever, screwing it up. I don't mind if you steal my ideas, just don't screw it up and give me some credit, because that's my experience is, people have often stole my ideas and screwed them up and then not given me any credit. So my plan is to sell books, sell advertising, promote libertymovement.org and its programs, which I'll explain, and not have to ask you for money. Now, you say, well, gee, I want to give you money. Well, that's really easy. Buy my books. They're all on Amazon. Well, I want to buy more of them. I want to buy a lot of your books. That's fine. Contact me. I've got a program. This book, which has sold 11,000 copies, this book should be read by every high school student in the United States. It's an antidote to all the bullshit they learn in high school. And it will be an antidote. It'll be sort of a vaccine, against all the bullshit they're going to learn in college if they go to college. So, hey, if you want to buy a bunch of these books at discount and give them to your every person who graduated from your high school, your local high school, hopefully that you're still affiliated with, fine. I got a program for that. That's not a gift, though. That's just buying stuff. This is a college education for $15. Believe me, we'll go in. If you watch the show, you're going to know all the books. Believe me. So don't say, well, what's this book about? Tell me. Believe me, you're going to find out. So let me go through real quick. So I have 7 books. I'm working on 5 or 8 more at any given time. I'm still practicing law, so I'm very busy. My first book is Political Class Dismissed, which was really it was a bunch of essays, but an anthology. But the main essay in the book was about what's wrong with Buffalo, a Rothbardian analysis, where I took Buffalo as a case study, a city that I know very well, explained why it declined, and I used like Rothbardian framework of analysis to do that. It's I think the best explanation of the decline of Buffalo, once great city, but it also applies to a lot of other cities in the Northeast that suffered similar fates. The dynamics are very similar. The details often change. So after that, I wrote a book which I think has not nearly sold enough. Government schools are bad for your kids. And that's a book that is so timely right now. It's just ridiculous. It's so timely. See the people in the streets. It's government school. Everything I said in the book. There's a little chapter. I'm going to break all these books down in shows, future shows. Little chapter 6, Good Little Soldiers. That's what is produced in government schools. You see the good little soldiers in the street. The other thing is, and I'm working on research about daycare. I'd call it the daycare generation. Too many ideas to possibly execute in one lifetime. I don't think I'm going to get all my books done in the time that, whatever time God's going to give me to accomplish that goal. But I'm moving fast, as fast as I can. I'm going to try to get as much done as I can. One thing I don't do, I don't read a book that somebody else has written. I just don't do it. Life's too short. My ego's too big. Whatever explanation you want to fill in, I will not write a book that's already been done. I wrote Direct Citizen Action, and this is kind of the key to a lot of what I'm doing. Believe it or not, I sat down, I kind of outlined it in one day. I wrote it, half of it in one day, and it took me about a month to just sort of fill it in. It was kind of in the beginning of the Tea Party movement, and I'm going to go for another 10 minutes, I think. Beginning of the Tea Party movement. Beginning of the Tea Party movement was very libertarian. Kind of started with Ron Paul, and I was heavily involved. And as soon as it stopped being libertarian, it got co-opted very quickly by the Republican Party. I was out. But Direct Citizen Action, I kind of wrote it as a strategy manual for the Tea Party movement. So real quick, and I know it's funny how fast time is going. I hope it's going fast for you, God Almighty. So, Direct Citizen Action is really one of the key concepts you're going to get on the show, which you're not going to get on other shows. I'm going to be very honest with you, because I am the PR department of libertymovement.org. So I'm going to have to explain to you why you should watch the show. There's no man behind the curtain. I don't have a PR person. If I had $5,000 a month to hire a PR firm, I mean, I'd probably just take the money and lay on a beach all day long. I could live on that, so it's silly. I don't have money for a PR firm. So I'm an advocate of direct citizen action as opposed to what? Electoral politics. I'm not categorically opposed to electoral politics or lobbying or lawsuits. Obviously, I do lawsuits. I'm doing a lockdown lawsuit at the moment, anti-lockdown lawsuit. I'm doing a anti-pistol permit lawsuit in New York State. I'm obviously not against these things categorically. What's the quote I like to? Well, I guess you want to call a fanatic is the prisoner of a single idea. I'm not a fanatic. I'm not the prisoner of direct citizen action. I just think that instead of 90% of the movement, liberty movement, or I don't like the word libertarian. I'll explain that probably in another show. That's why I use the word liberty movement. I don't like the word libertarian. Sorry. So we'll have to debate that. But instead of 90% of the movement being electoral politics, I think it should be 10, and I think 90% should be direct action. What's direct action? Direct action is it's not a precise definition, but the core idea, and then there's penumbras. The core idea is what you can do today to improve your liberty without anybody else's permission. And just real quick, the example, the best example is voting with your feet. Now, I'm wearing this t-shirt. I've already rolled out. The website's not quite done. I'm a one-man shop, one-man think tank, no man behind the curtain. I use volunteers, I use some family members to get things done. We rolled out the idea, though, and we put out the list of the 100 freest counties in the United States. That's up at libertymoving.org. I also have the website libertymovement.org, and the podcast is called the Liberty Moving Podcast with Jim Ostrowski. So that's a classic example of direct action. Another example would be, again, with the government school book. Government schools are bad for your kids. If you lobby the state legislature to improve schools, That's indirect action. You're asking somebody else to do something. If you just get your kids the hell out of the school, that's direct action. You've already solved much of that problem. Now, in the book, I talk about, well, perfect example is where I am right here. I could throw a baseball to the suburbs, but I live in Buffalo. We send our kids to Catholic schools. We spent money on tuition, obviously. Believe me, I recall doing that. They're both one of our kids is in college, the other one just graduated. So, but we didn't pay the extra property taxes. I'm in New York. I'm in Buffalo. There are ways to finesse that. I can't pay the free lunch for you, but the book explains how there's ways to do this, and believe me, it's all doable. So that's the direct action concept that I bring to the table. A couple other things. Legal experience for 37 years. Heavy duty, major league, balls to the wall, you name it, I've done it. Murder trials, false arrest cases. I've won appeals in the Second Circuit, U.S. Court of Appeals in New York City, Foley Square. It's what you see on TV when you're watching the state cop shows. It's the federal building, but Hollywood doesn't care. You've seen the building a million times. Election law case. I was Ron Paul's lawyer in New York State when he ran for president. 45 years as political consultant, author, policy analyst. I think I bring together. I knew the guy who founded the movement, a guy named Murray Rothbard. He was my teacher. He was literally my teacher. I took his private seminar in the history of economic thought. It was invite only. I'm not saying it was any great accomplishment, but we had to apply for it. I got accepted. Philosopher Doug Rasmussen, I think, was like the discussant. I'll never forget it. I got my notes. It's in New York City. And so he was I'm literally a student of Murray Rothbard. It's incredibly, it's incredible. Something I'm incredibly proud about. Can't quite articulate what I'm saying. It's not Murray's fault. It's my fault. So I'm associated with the Mises Institute. I'm a columnist for LouRockwell.com. So I think kind of a libertarian I am. I'm an interesting kind of a libertarian. I'm neither left nor right. I'm not really left or right on immigration. I think I've actually come up with a middle ground position, which I call international easy pass. That's going to piss off people on the left and the right of the movement. I don't really care. I think it's the libertarian position. Some other things I can get into. Just looking at the clock here. So my next book was Progressivism, a primer. I won't even have time to scratch the surface of what this book was about, but this is my bestseller. It defines the mindset that libertarians have been running into. We've been talking to a wall for 40 years. That's why we haven't accomplished much. We've been talking to a wall. And I said, I'm sick of talking to this wall. Let's figure out, what is this wall? So I wrote a book about it. And then I ripped off a quick book. I wrote it with my brother Mike. The impeachment of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton for high crimes and Syrian liberty. Nobody read it. Just talking about this on Facebook today. Here's the funny thing. They say Susan Rice might run for VP. Really funny, because she's responsible, I believe, for some of these foreign policy debacle. So I'm hoping and praying that she runs. Political prognostication. Those who follow me on Facebook, on Twitter, know that I called Trump early and often. I called him in the primaries. I predicted he was going to beat Hillary. I got the popular vote wrong. Predicted that he was going to beat Hillary in April. Flat out, firm prediction. Made a lot of other predictions that were accurate. I was toying with writing a book about why I got everything right and the national media didn't. I wrote, my next book was a book about how to revive the liberty movement, which is only on Kindle, but very interesting book on strategy, how to revive the movement. Running out of time here, I want to stick to about a half an hour. My most recent book is The Second Amendment Works, a primer on how to defend our most important right. So basically, see if I have any notes here. Subscribe, please subscribe so I can do live, so I can monetize this thing, so I can keep doing what I'm doing. The 7 books, the strategic ideas, such as Liberty Moving, giving a list of the best counties to live in, which will be expanded. So I think that's about it for now. Again, please subscribe so I can get this show up and running. If you want to support what I'm doing, buy my books on Amazon, and we'll expect to have a lot of interesting shows in the future, and I'm going to try to do this every day. I'm still practicing law pretty much full-time, and I may not be able to get it out every day, but I'm going to try to get it. It's a start anyway. It's better than the random shows I've been doing here and there. And so this is show number 1 of the Liberty Moving podcast with Jim Ostrowski. I will see you next time. Over and out from Buffalo, New York.